Hi guys, welcome to the analysis for Wednesday. It's August 29th, and today we're going to go over some of the major Forex pairs, of course. A few things that we talked about yesterday I'm going to kind of revisit and see how those are following through. And we'll go over perhaps some long-term plays and then what we might expect shorter term as well. One thing to keep in mind if you're trading, especially if you're trading Thursday's New York session, is that there is unemployment claims for the US dollar. So of course you want to pay attention to that if you have any US dollar trades in place, as that could definitely affect the market. Also, there's some minor fundamental stuff going on, and Tony wrote an article touching on a few of those. So I will link to that below this video if you want to check that out as well. Okay guys, let's take a look at our terms before we dig into this too much. And these are our terms just to make sure that you understand what the analysis is all about. It's, our personal views. It's for educational purposes only. These kind of bullet points are important for you to understand if you want to take part in the analysis, and make sure that you don't sue us if you lose any trades, because that would not be according to our terms. So that's why we put them there. So if you need to pause the video to check those out, go ahead and do that, and I'm going to jump into the analysis now. First pair I have up here is the EURUSD, and yesterday we talked about the EURUSD. The EURUSD is kind of an interesting setup. It was a bearish break, a continuation of that bearish trend, and then a strong break to the upside. Now after it broke to the upside, we see a test of this previous level that it was sitting on before. So yesterday's bar was a bullish bar off that level, and today's bar came right back down and tested that, and then started retreating back upward. So hopefully if you took a long on the EURUSD, which I still think would be a good trade, your stop loss was hidden below the trend line, which would be the appropriate place for a stop. And depending on where you're targeting, potentially you could target all the way up here, which would be a very long-term trade. But that is a very potential opportunity for the EURUSD, as it is breaking back up to previous levels. So you can keep that in mind. And if you're long on that, I would advise just being patient, because I believe that there is good long-term potential. Now, of course, in order for the market to move that amount of pips, it does a lot of whipping around, a lot of faking out, and it does that to get people out of profitable trades, because the market does not want people to be profitable. So it takes a lot of patience and a lot of skill to maneuver this, but it is possible to hit a very long-term trade on the EURUSD, in my opinion. So right now we're not quite back to a bullish bar, as you can see, but it is retracing quite a bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the day, which is just an hour or so away, if it was totally disappeared on the red side and looking more bullish. And then of course if we got a run like this, a few very bullish bars, we'd all of a sudden be looking at much higher prices up in here, and that trade would be very profitable. So that would be obviously an ideal situation for the EURUSD if you're long on it. And again, I think that the potential target would be all the way up here at this previous level. So that's what I'm looking at on the EURUSD. I'm still pretty bullish on that. I think there's some pretty good potential for long opportunities there, and I'll continue to monitor this pair as long as we're in the trade, and as long as we're looking to profit from a long position. Okay, let's check out the euro dollar next. Now, we had some pretty good US dollar strength today, so even though the euro was relatively strong, it didn't make up any ground against the dollar. Actually, it lost some ground, as you can see. However, we still are in a recent uptrend, if you're considering this last leg the trend. So there's still potential for the euro dollar to move upward, in my opinion. And we do have some levels to fight with. The top of this level is obviously going to be one, and then of course our long-term level, just like the EURUSD, would be up here. So that is still a good potential. I would say that long positions would best be found off a retrace back to this trend line and a continuation bounce. To me, that would provide the best signal. However, if you're an intraday trader and you're not looking for a full daily continuation signal, you could take an hourly or a 4-hour bar just in the middle of the day that shows continuation and still target some pretty decent pips in the upward direction. And I think that trade would have some validity to it as well. If I zoom out here a little bit, just a little bit farther, you can see that there is a level here that you couldn't see before, and that's this one. So for me, this is also a level that I'll be watching because it's the first major resistance level since this one, in my opinion. So I'm going to be watching that. This level here that I didn't do a good job of showing, we had a red line. It did break. So after it broke, this first red line that I have here, I'd say that this one is our next major level, and it's approaching that now. So depending on how it reacts to this level here, we might have a very good idea of where euro dollar is heading. And I would say that if it does break and continue, that we could certainly test this next major level here. Okay, so I'll be watching that on the euro dollar as well and looking for trade opportunities there. Next, we're going to take a look at the pound dollar. And of course, as I mentioned in yesterday's analysis, I think that the pound dollar has some great long potential as well. It made a strong bounce off this level yesterday and continued up somewhat today. Obviously not extremely bullish. You can see that this bar is not very large. However, it did move up and does appear to be showing some signs of continuation. Now, as far as the overall potential for it to move up, there's a lot, because we could be targeting all the way up here, which is a very long-term target, just like the euro CAD or the euro dollar. So a lot of really long-term potential trades as you look across the market. Now, again, whether you can get on a trade and hold it to that extent of time is a different question. It's certainly a difficult task, but still those possibilities do exist. If you're in the pound dollar long, as I know that a few of you are, Ahmed commented and said that he took a pound dollar long, so it might be a good idea to lock in your break even at this point, just in case we get a retest of this level. You don't want to get yourself into that negative of shape after being up on a trade. So locking it into break even is a potential play at this point. Hopefully tomorrow will just be a rocket ship straight up, and you won't even have to think about break even because you'll have several pips locked in, and you can just worry about hitting your long-term target. Of course, that would be ideal if you're sitting on a pound dollar long at this point. So we'll keep an eye on this as well. This is just a very good balance in my opinion, so it's something that I'm finding a lot of validity in, and hopefully we'll see continuation of that all the way up. That would be great. Okay, next we're going to look at the odd dollar. And the odd dollar is still heading down pretty consistently. This is another one that we mentioned yesterday, looked to be continuing down, and another one that I know that several people are on trades. And so hopefully you're gaining a little bit of profit as well on the odd. Again, not a fantastic bearish bar that's crashing through any major levels, but consistent movement in one direction is still a great thing. And so there's money to be made there. Now, what's great about an odd dollar short, if you have that and are up on that, and a pound dollar long, is that they are somewhat hedged because you're short on the dollar in one and long on the dollar in the other. So that does give you a little bit of protection there as you trade. So of course, having a protected position like that where you can still earn profit on both sides is a great thing, and definitely something to take advantage of if you can. So good job on the guys who are doing that long on pound dollar, short on odd dollar, and making money in both. Hopefully you'll get a little more acceleration on those pairs because right now they're not moving a whole lot, unfortunately. Alright, let's check out the pound yen for a minute here. Now, the pound yen is one that's been relatively bearish for a consistent amount of time. However, we do have our first bullish break in a decent amount of time headed upward. This was another bullish rally that happened some time ago. But this is looking like a decent setup. It's not a great bull flag pattern, but it is resembling of that, which would obviously infer that it's moving more up. Unfortunately, we're not getting a lot of great candles. Like even this candle has a little bit of topping action to it, so it's not extremely strong. However, I think that the pound yen has some potential for movement up. I guess it kind of depends on whether you're thinking pound dollar or pound yen is a better combination. If you think that yen is going to be weaker over the long term, and then you might take a pound yen long rather than a pound dollar long because of that. If pound yen really rallies with all that it can cover a ton of pips in a short amount of time. However, unfortunately, we've seen a lot of this where it's just not covering too much ground. even with a lot of bars of the same color, moving together. So to get a strong break would be a great thing for pound yen, and I think that would be a very profitable opportunity. But I'm just not seeing as much confidence in the pound yen moving in that direction as I would like at this point in time. But that's still a potential. It really depends on how you're looking at this market and what you're seeing here. That's what it comes down to. For me, I'm not seeing a lot of definite signals. However, I do recognize the potential for pound yen to really move a lot because of its history. So I think that there is some potential there if you're going to look for a signal that meets your criteria. Don't forget that this is a little bit of a resistance area in here as well, so we're kind of sitting right on that as we go across. Okay? Alrighty, let's take a look at the pound New Zealand. Now the pound New Zealand will be the last pair that I cover today, and it's I always like to cover the pound New Zealand because it's just a lot of movement and fun to trade. And you can see that yesterday we had our first large bar in quite some time, and that was followed up pretty consistently with today's bar. So hopefully some of you took along on this power bar because you'd be up quite a few pips. I can measure today's bar. Today's bar was about 120 pips, 110 pips maybe, even just in one day. So that's obviously a lot of profit potential there, and definitely something that if you have an opportunity to take advantage of, that it would be wise to do. We are coming up on resistance. We can see that this double top here is a major level. That's not a very straight line, but you can see that it's coming close. Even if I draw the line a little better, it's higher up. That we are coming close to that level. So it's something that you'll want to keep in mind as you watch pound New Zealand. If it breaks that level up here and continues to the upward direction, we could see some very long-term long possibilities, but if it starts a reversal signal, I would be looking for shorts all the way on the pound New Zealand. So definitely check that out. Make sure that you have your levels drawn, as they are very important. And also be sure to leave me a comment and let me know how you're trading these opportunities and what your success is with that. Alright guys, well thanks again for tuning into the analysis. I hope that I was able to provide some help for you today, and I will certainly look forward to talking to you about how you handle these trade opportunities and getting your feedback on that. Don't forget about the unemployment claims tomorrow, and talk soon.